What?
All right, cool.
I didn't
Oh,
allow this. No.
sorry, you're on camera, buddy. All right, so if you don't mind introducing yourself real quick.
I am David Acuff, and I'm a producer editor for the Walt Disney Corporation here in Los Angeles. So,
Ooh, big man over here.
well,
The David Acuff.
that's right.
I was kind of stressing about how to pronounce your name. I was like, is it a cuff, a cuff, a coof, something like
I've
that? But
I've
thank you
heard
for the
I've heard them
confirmation.
all. Yeah, yeah. Just
Them all.
a cuff. As yep.
There you go. Easy to
So,
remember.
hmm.
All right, so I guess first off, I was doing some digging around. I hope you're happy to hear that. And I got in
Light
touch with your
stalking. Yes, good,
light
good.
stalking. I got in touch with your fan club on
Oh, okay,
IMDb.
okay.
And so I saw that you graduated from North Carolina University. I want to say 2003.
Yes.
Cool.
NC State was in '94, and then grad school from Regent University was 2003. So,
Awesome. So
so I
first
went.
off, tell me about your time in at North Carolina, as a up and coming film student. What was it like, the environment there?
It was good. We I felt like with undergrad stuff, as you may have seen, it we did a smattering of everything. So I was learning some video production, television production, radio production, actual film where we shot 8 millimeter film and chopped that up, and some script writing. So it trained me for a little bit in a lot of different areas. But I like that because you got to see, well, I really like this thing, and I really didn't like that as much. So it helped you to focus your interests, but it didn't coming out of undergrad. It was just a communication degree, so it wasn't like I could just step right into jobs like the engineering school. They went right into a job right after, and some of the other schools like the law school right into a job. Communication is like, welcome to Burger King, can I help your can I can
Yeah,
I
that that's
take your
the
order?
that's
So
definitely the stressful thing about this field of work. You go to school, you put in all that effort, and then finally you get out of it, and you're like, "Hey, Amazon, pick me up."
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So that was tough, but
yeah. Hey, I'm sure you had a good time though.
oh
So
yeah, yeah.
afterwards, you went to Regent University where you did a film byline for them
Yes,
that had a budget of $25,000. That's a
yes.
that's a big thing.
That
So what
was
was it?
good. That was a healthy budget for
Oh yeah.
grad school people. So,
So what was that transition like, going from, you're doing freelance work in between schools, and then here you have a big project with all this money. What's that like?
well, for starters, after I got out of undergrad, I thought about going to grad school, but then I started freelancing in the Raleigh market, and I was meeting people, getting work, and so as long as I could, sustain that and get work and pay my bills and stuff like that, that was great. But after about 5 years, then again there was like another recession going on, and so the work was starting to dry up. So I was like, now's the perfect time to go to grad school. And so I highly recommend that to people. Oh, if you're thinking about grad school, there's times to do it, and there's times not to do it. If you're getting plenty of work, like if you get out of Texas State and you've got all the jobs that are just rolling in, well, you don't need grad school, unless you're wanting to teach later. You don't really need it. So you just go where the work is and just continue to build your career. It started to dry up for me, so I was like, yep, I'm going to go hide out in grad school for 2 to 3 years. And so but I was that 5 years of freelance built a lot of skills so that when I got to grad school, I was a little better than some of the others at, what I was wanting to do, directing and editing. So I got to work on a bunch of people's projects, and which made me, a friend to a lot of people. And so that helped out a lot because the teachers, when they were looking to assign that summer film, every year they had two summer films that they would assign. Each one had a $25,000 budget. They would select the script from this student, they would select a producer and a director, and then you three and the professor would build the rest of the team and then shoot this half hour film. And so so then when I was in the running for that, then again, I was the professors liked me and my grades were decent. And, I'd shown with my short films that I could, that I understood all the material and could pull off a unique look. And so then I put my name in the hat for that summer film, and I was awarded with it. So it was good. And we shot on film. So that was, 16 millimeter film that we shot on. We edited on the Avid, and then we conformed it on the Steenbeck editor. So after we got the shot list and stuff from the Avid, took it back in there and chopped it up to conform it. So it was just a very fun hands-on process where I got to see the whole thing from the pitch all the way down to the final thing, where we saw it at some theaters and festivals where we're watching it with an audience. And you're like, did the joke I put in there land? Are they laughing at the right spots? Are they tearing up at the right spots? So it was just a fun process, but very
Yeah,
difficult.
think about audience reaction. That's always the scariest part when you're making something.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for
So
sure.
when you're doing freelance, what was the most like budget wise that you had to work with?
At that time, mostly I was just getting started. So I was either like an assistant editor. That's where I first got. Everywhere I've moved, like they needed an editor first, and so that's been like the first. Like even here in LA, I started working at Disney as freelancing as an editor. So, but that's skipping ahead. But editing has always kind of opened the doors first, and then I was editing for this one group, and they're like, "Well, we need somebody to go out and get interviews with this person, and then come back and edit it. You think you could go interview them with a crew?" And I was like, sure, why not? So then, that producing kind of came into play, where I went out, shot the interview, collected the footage, got some B-roll, and then brought it back and edited it together into whatever it was, a 3 or 4 minute piece. And that kind of got the process started, because as a producer, I could go find my own work and shoot the interviews and pay myself to do that and then I could hire myself as an editor to edit. So it was kind of like a twofer on every project that I got. It helped the budget wise. So
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
yeah, but the actual budgets were, they weren't very high at that point. So it was $2,000 or $3,000,
hmm
maybe 4 or 5. Later it got bigger. So when I was working at Trailblazers with Betty, then one of them was like for Caterpillar tractors, and that was like a $200,000 budget, where they sent us all over with their tractor and just shooting it in all these different applications. And another one was for Pergo floors, which we did like this spy kind of a theme, and that ended up being like $70,000. But we got to use actors and some fun stuff for that. So the budgets were kind of all over the place. But as an independent, when I was first starting out, the budgets were again $2,000-$3,000.
hmm
So it's whatever you could take.
Yeah, even that amount of money, that's terrifying to me.
Right, right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure like once you get the money, you have your team together, it's easy to balance those things out, but ooh, that scares me. Yeah. Yeah, so moving on, I'm assuming that you have a deep love for film going back to, teenage years, childhood and all that,
Sure.
as most of
Mhm,
us do.
mhm.
So if you had to say, what would you say is like the moment that you knew you wanted to do film as like a career?
I think I was at a Baptist camp when I was 9 years old, and at the end of it, they're like, just write on a piece of paper what you feel like you want to be when you grow up. And I remember on that piece of paper I wrote entertainment industry. So somewhere at 9 years old, I had an inkling, and again that you know I don't feel like I was in the entertainment industry, from 9 years old until I was 42. I showed up in Hollywood and started working out here, and then a couple years later got the job with Disney. So now I'm working in the entertainment industry, but everything else was just kind of practice and all the how to shoot in focus, how to light it well, how to get emotive reactions from actors and performances from non-actors, even when you're interviewing, all that stuff that I was developing, I'm using today. So 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I might be interviewing somebody for Bayer Talacris for their latest drug thing that they have going on, the president of the company. So I'm using those same skills now, but now it's like Jessica Biel, talking about her latest Cruel Summer show, season 2 on Freeform. So same skills, very, very applicable down the line. So
Hmm. Yeah, those are some big words for a 9-year-old to put on a piece of paper.
yes,
Entertainment
it
industry.
is.
That's
It
crazy.
is.
That's
Yes.
some like divine intervention right there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like, oh, entertainment. Oh, what does
The
it mean?
golden sign, it popped up in your head. You're like, that's the one. That's it. Police officer? No. Entertainment.
No.
God,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. So that was early on, I feel like, where I kind of, and I always enjoyed the writing process. Like, so I was always doing like creative writing and little stories and stuff like that. But I didn't feel like in undergraduate school, I didn't want to do the English major, which
Hmm.
obviously as a writer, that would be your natural thing. Because to me, once you go and get an English degree, you're going straight to being a teacher. And I was like, I didn't want to be a teacher. So necessarily at that point. So that's when I went into communication. So
Yeah.
mass
Well, that's
communication.
great. So you obviously have a big passion for writing. You've written multiple feature-length screenplays from what I've
Yes.
read.
Yes.
So what's your writing process like as a fellow writer?
Um, it's changed through the years. Like for the first 20 years, it really was all about the feature length screenplay. So every class that I took, and the class from Scott Myers, or whether it was at grad school or even undergrad, I was trying to learn how to do like that 90 to 120 page, feature length film. Now, after writing like 7 or 8 of those, and they're all sitting on a shelf because nobody's giving you $1 million or $500,000 or even $25,000 to go shoot your beloved project. In the last 5 years since moving out here, then I started turning some of those into novels because I enjoy the storytelling process, and then at the end of it, I have a product that it can go out onto Amazon, and I can at least once in my life have the story told, start to finish, how I envisioned it. Now, if somebody wants to make a movie from it, that's fine too. But for starters, I know that from my creative side of things, that it's I get the most say so in the novel writing
Hmm.
world. And I've got, at any one time, I've got like 20 different ideas of things, and I allow myself, like if I'm writing on one project and get stuck, I can just put that on the back burner and kind of, let your ADD work for you. And then you switch over to this one and you kind of find new inspiration for this one. And you kind of have figured out how to work through that problem in the plot. So you start writing on that one, you get stuck there, and you come back on this one over here. So there's a lot of projects I move forward a little bit at a time. And then when one starts to almost get finished, or it looks like it's, there's a light at the end of the tunnel for it, then I hunker down and kind of push that one through. But for the most part, I'm just juggling a lot of different projects, and so just whatever one I'm most passionate about at the time. So
Hmm. Yeah, that's always the fun part of being a writer. You get stuck on one thing, you have like 50 other different ideas you can immediately jump to.
mm-hmm.
That's always fun. Yeah. And so in 2006, you started your own production company, Davidian Productions, I want to say.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. What was the process like coming up to the decision to sort of start your own company?
Well, it was, so I was at Trailblazer, and I was kind of being on the track to being the king of corporate video, which I didn't want to be. So occasionally there was a fun project and fun people to work with, like Betty, but more often than not, it was again some technical, company like GlaxoSmithKline or something like that, and just telling a very, you know, to me, a very talking heads, boring story about how they made this drug or how they did this. And so I didn't want to keep doing that. And so I left the company and started my own business. And because I knew I had worked with enough people at Trailblazer, and a lot of people owed me favors and stuff, and producers that I had hired and stuff. So that as a freelancer, now I had a warm market, a hot market, to go out into freelance. And then I had this person that could give me jobs over here, or this person that I could edit for. And so, you can make ends meet, which is the thing. And again, as soon as stuff starts drying up, that's when you pivot and you either go back into full-time work or whatever. But being being a business owner is tough because you're wearing so many hats. So the creative side is the editing and some of the producing stuff, but you're also trying to land the next client. And while you're finishing this project and editing it, you're trying to land the next project. So your next month you have stuff on the calendar. So it's constantly juggling, and some people have even gone a little higher and they start hiring employees, and that's an even bigger worry and stress as a business owner, because now you're just not making, you have to make payroll as well as pay for yourself. You've now got extra mouths to feed, and I never made that jump. I just dealt with freelancers as well. I never was big on buying a bunch of my own equipment. So that gave me the flexibility. So if I was doing this big $40,000 job, I could get this camera and this camera guy and this DP, and we'd go do that. If I was doing this little $1,200 job that I was shooting myself, well, then I could borrow this camera and I could do this and go shoot that myself. So it didn't lock me into one particular camera or one particular light kit or anything like that. So I don't know, that helped me out to be a little more flexible early on. So, but it was tough, again, because you're bringing in your own work, and you've got to say yes to everything, really, because
It's work.
Beast, yeah, because you never know when it's going to dry up. So you got to keep taking all this work. So that can be very stressful to be an independent like that, and that's why for now, I'm very happy working with Disney, where I've been for a few years, because it's mostly 9 to 6 Monday through Friday. So that leaves my nights and weekends to write and do all this other stuff. And it frees me up, like creatively. Yes. Creatively, it frees me up to, pursue some stuff on my nights and weekends. So that's good. But
Well, yeah, that's always a good schedule to have.
mm,
Yeah, running a business is an incredible monster to take on. I recently started up my own production company, and
okay.
it was great. This past month or so, we hosted our first film festival for like students and independent work,
Mm.
and it turned out great. But I also have this pile of mail right here that I have to go through. Some of it's from the government, and it's horrifying.
Yeah.
But it's a great thing to do because you at the end of the day, you are your own boss. You get to sort of make your own work, even though technically on the latter side of things, you don't really have people to answer to, but you do have to answer to the work below you.
Right, for
Yeah,
sure. And there's
yeah,
with all those hats that you're wearing, like I had to buy QuickBooks Pro, and I'm having to do all this stuff with invoicing and all these things for accounting and tax rules, and I incorporated I've done it as an S corp and I've done it as an LLC. I'd recommend the LLC more because it's a little easier. But just all that stuff, and so you're just dealing with all these hats. And as you get more and more work, and then you can shave those off and pay somebody else, like the CPA can just handle that. But originally, that's that could be a $500,000 expense. That's like, no, I'll do that myself.
yeah.
Building your
It's
own
tough.
website and having information about yourself on the web. It's like, all right, now I got to learn WordPress. I've got to learn all this kind of stuff. And so it can be exhausting with every little thing you're having to learn and then do it and learn and then do it. And so it is very
Yeah,
tough.
it's
But
yeah. Like I hate using Excel spreadsheets, but
sure.
they're my new best friend now. I have to use them. whether I like it or not. So
Yes.
if you had to give one piece of advice to anyone looking to start up their own company or just in general do independent work, what would you have to say to them?
Um, there's a couple different things. For starters, like I said, you really need to try a lot of different things so that you can learn for yourself what you're really good at and what you're passionate about, so that you can really hone in on those things. Like me as an editor, I knew I could buy a laptop, I could buy Adobe Premiere, and I'm set up. I can start editing anywhere in the world, from for anybody. So that was, and I was really good at it. I was fast at it, and so that was a skill that I pushed that forward when I'm selling myself, as editor. Um, when I came out here, I could do all these different things. I had DP'd, I had produced, edited, screenwriter, all these kind of things. But people don't want to really mess with you if you're the jack of all trades. They're like, oh yeah, sure, you can do all of those things. So you have to pick a lane, and just so when you meet somebody out in LA, it's like, so what do you do? It's like, oh, I'm an editor. And that, so that as they are looking for work for themselves, an editing job might come along. They're like, oh, I remember that guy I met the other day. He's an editor, so this might be a good match. They can't do that if it's, oh, he's a producer editor. This his business card is 6 miles long, but I'm sure he'll work out for you. So picking up, find out what you're good at, and picking a lane, and then doubling down on that, on that part of the process. And then really, the freelance market is just like the school that you just went through. There's hundreds of people in the school. There may be 5 or 10 people that you would work with, that you can count on, that you have a good relationship with. And that's LA exactly. So when I was an extra in Patch Adams years ago in 1997. And so what I noticed was the crew on that set of Patch Adams had like Ace Ventura, t-shirts, and they had Liar Liar t-shirts, because this was the same crew that Tom Shadyac, the director, he pulled them along on each of his projects. Because if he's seen your work, he can trust you, he likes your work, you get along. That's why Betty and I still work together, because you find these people, and it's like, all right, hang on to that person, and then invite them along to all your other projects, and that's all you can hope for. And then if things start to dry up, certainly pivot, grad school, or whatever it is. I was prepared to do a Uber driver out here, or I Lyft drove for like one weekend out here just to see what that was about. But there's all these work opportunities that would have kept me in LA if I had not gotten the work with the editing and stuff, and the Disney stuff hadn't come along. So, but I needed to be here long enough to form relationships, and then get people to trust me, and then to give me work. And so I was willing to do whatever I needed to do to kind of stay around in the area long enough. So those,
Mhm.
it's like 3 things, I think, but yeah.
Hey, great advice. And you've
Yes.
clearly done great for yourself. I mean, from what I can see, your house looks pretty cool.
It's not bad. This is in Burbank, so it's very close to the downtown area of Burbank. So the first couple of years, everybody's the same. We all have these clunker cars, like the oldest Honda Accord, the Honda Civic, stick shift. I was in a back house, living in somebody's the house behind their house. It didn't even have a bathroom in it. I had to go in the house to use the bathroom. Didn't have a kitchen. So you progress. You don't start, even here. You work with what you've got. So, anyways,
hmm
it's
Literal bottom of the barrel. Yeah,
yeah,
well, that's that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for doing this. It
sure,
was
sure.
great talking with you.
Yeah, and tell me, you said so you've got your own company, but where are you seeing yourself, of all the production things that you've done? What are your 2 or 3 top things you're like, I really love?
Oh
What
no,
part
I
of the process?
really love writing is probably my first passion. That's what keeps me going day in, day out.
Okay.
Yeah, and then on second that is directing probably. Like if I write something, I have to direct it. I'm sure a lot of other people would say the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like any script I write, that's like my child. I don't let anybody touch that.
Right.
And it's if I do let you touch it, it means you are like, I trust you with all my heart.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, so that's what I've been focusing on when I'm at Texas State is, of course, I'm taking all these like film editing classes and
Mhm,
whatnot, but I always try to look for the details that'll make me a better director, a
mhm,
better, obviously, a boss in general, you know,
mhm, mhm.
and just
And
learning those leadership skills.
and that's what I found was that there's three gatekeeping areas of the film process. The writing is the first time you tell the story. The directing is the second time you tell the story with the actors and just whatever you pull in, the elements. And then the editing is the third time and the final time that you tell that story. And in an ideal world, it evolves up. Each one of those gets a little bit, makes the thing a little bit better. But I've also found that some of the best directors I know also can edit, so
Hmm.
because you know what cuts together in the field, you know what cuts together in the edit room. So when you're out there shooting it, you're just like, all right, you're cutting it together in your head, which is a huge time saver because
Oh yeah.
the people that can't do that, they're just spraying everything. They're just getting all this footage they're never going to need. But you, as an editor, know that okay, I need the wide shot, I need coverage, and then this particular line, I need the hand holding the pencil that's writing, and then I've got it. So everything I've got is right there, and then you can be a more intentional filmmaker. So that's
Yeah, and thank God, like the way I've seen a lot of people come up in the general film community is writing is probably like the first thing that they try, and then editing is like the very second. So they'll write something and then like they'll shoot like a little at-home video. And
yeah,
then because they have so many options for editing, like I even edit on my phone from time to time.
yeah,
You can do it
yeah.
right then and there, right when you're done shooting.
Uh-huh. That's
And
right.
so you already go into some of these shoots and you're like, okay, so if I shoot it this way, then I can connect it to this next shot just like this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very amazing thing that we have so many options for what we can do just by ourselves.
And that to me is the best way to like Elon Musk talks about this. He wants to be able to iterate as quickly as possible. So he wants to find the problems so he can make the thing better and then get on to the next iteration of like his rockets. So he knows there's going to be failure points, but it's the same with us in the story writing process. All right, we need to be able to write a short script and then get done with it, either shoot it or not, but then move on to the next one. In the beginning, I was spending like 15 years trying to write one amazing script and it was just bogging me down and bogging me down. Finally, I set that aside and went on to the next one. Finished, moved on to the next one. And that iterating process is what, makes you a better, stronger writer, because you finish
Hmm.
the project first of all and you move on to the next one. So it's very important. But
Yeah, persistency is key in literally anything you do,
Mhm.
even outside of film.
Mhm. So are you considering LA or you've got
Ooh, I would love to go to LA someday. I don't know if I would stay there just because of how crazy it is. But luckily, even here in San Marcos, it's growing so fast. We have a film studio that's being built in the next couple of years, just right outside of the city.
yeah,
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of job opportunities here. It's going to turn into a very competitive area. Austin, right next to us, is becoming like the new LA.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And that was my whole thing. Even after grad school, when I moved back to Raleigh, it's because I knew producers there. So I intentionally went to a warm market where I had leads and opportunities. So that's kind of the uh, you kind of have to do that. And in the smaller market, you can do bigger things. My friend that's in Fayetteville, North Carolina, he's like doing all this big corporate stuff for hospitals and the police department and just all these big videos that he's able to do. Whereas if he comes to LA, you're starting at the bottom again, with all these
Hmm.
other people because so many other people are doing this stuff. So it's kind of tough. So in the smaller market, you can get bigger quicker, but it's all those skills are transferable to LA. They talk like they're better, but it's all the same.
It's all the
It's,
same, yeah.
it's all the same.
And one thing I love about being in San Marcos, and especially Texas State, is because the film community here is kind of like just starting up, it's super easy to get in with who
Mm,
you need to, because
sure.
everybody right now is kind of just at the bottom. So you can get in with somebody who is genuinely an extremely talented person, and they don't have like 50 billion people crowding them. You can be like, hey,
Right.
you want to be friends?
Right.
And even a lot of my professors, they're super easy to talk to, great people. I know like at UT, it's a completely different environment.
Hmm.
Yeah, because it's obviously a much bigger school. A lot of people are sort of just out to, you know, get the jobs, go to LA and get out. At Texas State, it's much more of a community. Everybody's trying to work together,
Mhm.
work with each other, make everybody as successful as they can be. And it's a genuinely great environment. I would hate to leave it.
Yeah, I got the tour when I was there visiting in December, and so Betty showed me around and some of the new buildings and stuff that you had in the studio spaces. So it's a lot of cool stuff to be able to work with. So
Hmm.
that's good to have a school that backs you and having other filmmakers around you to kind of help pushing you forward. That's good.
Hmm. Yeah, it's great.
But
Yeah.
cool, that's awesome.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. So I don't have like the Zoom Plus, so I think it's gonna just like end itself in a couple minutes.
4 minutes and 33 seconds. It's a little
Oh,
countdown that tells you.
oh, it
Um,
doesn't even. All right, whatever. Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I use Zoom like once every 6 years. So
that's funny. I use
yeah.
it all the time. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
our work thing. Actually, I've done interviews uh during the pandemic. We would actually this was our interview thing where we would record over Zoom and do the same behind the scenes interview, and then they would, send us the footage and we would cut it together. But yeah, Zoom was, it saved us. That's
Yeah,
for
it's a
sure.
savior for a lot of people. Like imagine the people who invested in the Zoom stocks right before COVID. They
Oh
are
yeah.
swimming right now.
Yeah.
They're doing
Yeah.
great.
It was,
Wish I was
yeah.
there.
I watched that process. I was like, ooh, missed it.
I know.
Missed it
Always,
by that much.
always just too late.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, cool.
So yeah, I guess I would just have one more question for you, just so we can
Yeah,
waste the last couple minutes.
go for it.
Tell me about a little bit how you scored the job with Disney.
Uh, I had like 20 years of production experience, but again, once I came out here, I found out you kind of have to start at the back of the line again with everybody else because they don't know you. It's a cold market. I didn't have a lot of leads, but some of my friends that were out here said you need to sign on with a temp agency. Because all the studios and all the big networks and stuff, they all use temps to come in and do stuff. And so the temp agency like is a shortcut into the system. So I found a temp agency that specifically serviced DreamWorks, Warner Brothers, and Disney. And I was like, okay, so I could end up at any one of those three and I would love it. So I signed on with them. And the first job was with someplace, a small production, kind of YouTube production company called Awesomeness TV. And so it was, this crazy little 3 day gig for me, but I passed the test. They liked it. So then my next gig was with a 2 month gig with Disney, and that introduced me to some people there, which then that launched 8 months of freelance editing with that same group. And then once their editor left, then I applied for a full-time position. So now I've been there for 7 years, full-time with Disney. But it all started with when I was a temp, I was just doing Excel spreadsheets. I was just like an office PA, So I've produced, I've done this and done a feature film and done all this kind of stuff and 6, 7 scripts and all. But starting as an office PA, I was like, I don't care. It's like whatever it takes to get my foot in the door. And if they want Excel spreadsheets, I'm going to give them the best damn Excel spreadsheets they've ever seen. So
Amen to that.
that's how it worked, and it just kind of paid off. That attitude of whoever the boss is, it's like my job is to take your headaches away. So
Hmm.
the work that you don't want, the headache work, or the stuff that nobody else is wanting to do, just give that to me. I'll handle it, give it back to you. It's all polished and nice, and we're and people like that a lot, So that, yeah, give that over here, and you can rely on this guy. So, and then it's a slow progression from there. So,
Yeah, I mean, hey, everybody loves a little bit of aspirin in their lives, I guess.
oh yeah, for sure, for sure,
Yeah,
for
anything to
sure.
take the edge off. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I guess that'll be all for today. Thank you very much for meeting. It was really great talking to you, man.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime, just let me know.
Yeah,
Somebody
awesome.
deserves an A. I said so.
I hope so. You heard it right here, Betty.
Awesome.
All right. Well, you have a great day, man.